Hello listeners, this video discusses on A Streetcar Named Desire, a play written by Tennessee Williams. A Streetcar Named Desire is a most famous work of Williams and it is one of the most critically acclaimed play during the 20th century, and still it is the most performed plays and inspired most adaptations into films. One of its critically acclaimed film was released in the year 1951. Let us see about Tennessee Williams. His full name is Thomas Lanier Williams III. His pen name is Tennessee Williams. He is an American playwright and a screenwriter. He was born in the year 1911 and died in the year 1983. He was contemporary to Eugene O'Neill and Arthur Miller. These three are considered as the foremost playwrights of 20th century in America. Williams has written short stories, poetry, essays, and also memoirs. William became success only after his successful play, The Glass Menagerie, in the year 1944. He is the one who introduced plastic theatre, which means it closely reflects his own unhappy family background. His other successful plays are A Streetcar Named Desire, the year 1947, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, 1955, Sweet Bird of Youth, 1959, The Night of the Yokna, 1961. This play, A Streetcar Named Desire, is often shortlisted along with other finest plays, with Eugene O'Neill's Long Day's Journey into Night and Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. These are listed as the finest American plays during the 20th century. This play by Tennessee Williams, A Streetcar Named Desire, is published in 1947 and it had won Pulitzer Prize for drama and has also received other numerous prizes such as Tony and Oliver Awards since its production as film. Let us now see the characters of this play. Blanche DuBois, who is the sister of Stella. She's the older sister and she's about 30 years. She is a high school teacher in Laurel, Mississippi, and she is forced to leave her position as teacher. Stanley Kowalski, she is the husband of Stella. He is a ferocious, violent masculine. Stella Kowalski, she is a younger sister of Blanche and the wife of Stanley Kowalski. Stella is a calm and emotional woman. Harold Mitchell, who's otherwise called as Mitchell, he's a gentleman of Stanley's poker playing friends. He develops a relationship with Blanche, who's the sister of Stella. Eunice is Steve's wife and Kowalski's neighbor who lives in the upstairs. She and her husband Steve, they frequently fight and they make up with each other. Steve is the husband of Eunice. Steve is one of Stanley's poker playing and bowling friends. He's a hot-tempered and a comic person. Pablo is another Stanley's poker playing friends. A Negro woman who's a neighbor of Eunice. Matron and doctor. They arrive when the play ends. It is to take Blanche away from the house of Stella and Stanley. Let us now see the summary of this play. The play has 11 scenes totally, and this video has the entire summary of it. The play is set in the year 1940s and it happens in New Orleans. Stanley and Stella, they live in a downstairs apartment, which is a faded building. The author Tennessee Williams, he uses the flexible set of this play. He shows the interior and the exterior part of the apartment in order to give a good portrayal to the audience. Blanche DuBois, who's the sister of Stella, she arrives to the house of Stella. Blanche, when she had to ask for Stella's address, she gets direction like this. They told me to take a streetcar named Desire and then to transfer to one called Symmetries and ride 6 blocks and get off at Elysian field. Blanche, she arrives to Stella's house. She has just arrived from Laurel, Mississippi. She's an English teacher who's dressed in white. She's a delicate and a moth-like woman. Blanche informs Stella that she has left her teaching position due to her nervousness. She also criticizes her sister Stella for living a normal life by giving up a light upbringing. She criticizes Stella's surroundings and her family status. Stella stays calm and quietly listens to her sister's complaint. In contrast to Stella, her husband Stanley Kowalski, he is a raw, animal-like, violent man. Blanche, who always dresses in silky clothes and wears jewels. Stanley dislikes Blanche for her attire and also for her outlook. Stanley, he used to wear the same shirts which is dripped in sweats. He always rips off his sweaty shirt under the kitchen light bulb. Stella's life with her husband is basically based on sexual chemistry. Her life is defined by her role as Stanley's wife, who has to take care of the household duties. She also hears from her sister Blanche that her sister has lost Belly Reeve. Belly Reeve is the ancestral house of the sisters. Blanche gives explanation that after the death of their relatives, their ancestral home is lost by her carelessness. Meantime, Stella is pregnant with Stanley's child. Hearing the explanation from Blanche, Stanley immediately distrusts Blanche because he suspects that Blanche has cheated Stella of giving her the share of family inheritance. Once when Stanley asks for the explanation of losing Bella Reeve, Blanche starts to defend her to Stanley. She reveals that Bella Reeve was lost due to a foreclosed mortgage that symbolizes that Blanche is poor at handling her own finance. Also, her financial circumstance is revealed to her sister and her husband. Mortgage is nothing but borrowing some amount of money in the name of the property. After the arrival of Blanche, she tries to drink too much so that she will not conceal any matters to her sister and her brother-in-law. The unhappiness of Stella is revealed to her sister as Stanley is always involved in poker game with his male friends at the apartment. Stanley violently attacks Stella in a drunken state too often. Meantime, Blanche's love affair with Mitch is revealed to Stanley. Mitch is a close friend of Stanley. Blanche tries to take the attention of Mitch. Once when Blanche gets to communicate with Mitch in her bedroom, Stanley erupts and he breaks into storm into the bedroom and throws the radio out of the window. This time, Stella comes out of her room and yells at Stanley and defends Blanche. In response, Stanley beats her. The men who plays poker game, they all come there. Blanche and Stella escape to the upstairs neighbor's house, that is Eunice's apartment. Sometime later, Stanley comes to Eunice's house, meets Stella and cries, falling her feet to forgive him. Communicating with her sister Blanche, Stella returns to Stanley and they both embrace each other passionately. Meantime, Mitch used to meet Blanche outside the apartment of Kowalski and he comforts her in her distress. When this is all going on, Blanche tries to convince her sister Stella to ask her to leave Stanley so that she will get a better man whose social status would equalize Stella's. Blanche suggests her sister Stella that she and Stella would communicate a milliner who's named as Shep Huntledge for help in order to escape from New Orleans. Listening to her sister's advice, Stella laughs at her And Blanche, she reveals that she is broken by the behavior of her husband. Stanley secretly overhears the conversation of Blanche and Stella. He breaks out and comes in as Blanche makes fun of him. Later, Stanley tries to threaten Blanche by hearing about the rumors that is going around about Blanche's past. Hearing this, Blanche is visibly dismayed. This incident disappoints Blanche because her past is revealed to Stanley. One evening, when Blanche is alone in the apartment, she is waiting for Mitch to pick her up for a date. When she is alone in the apartment, a teenage boy comes to take money for the newspaper that he had distributed. Blanche did not have enough money to give him. She tries to kiss him in a lustful way so that the newspaper boy would get it and leave without getting money from her. Soon as the boy departs, Mitch arrives and they both go for the date. When Blanche returns home, she is exhausted of all the rumors that she heard from Stanley. She is upset the entire night. Blanche calls Mitch to have a heart-to-heart discussion with him. She reveals about the greatest tragedy in her past. She narrates that years ago, she had a young husband who committed suicide after she discovered and chastised him for his homosexuality. Listening to this, Minch also describes that he had also lost his former love and he tells her that she needs Blanche in his life. The next scene opens on the birthday of Blanche. Stella lovingly prepares a dinner for Blanche, Mitch, Stanley, and for herself. Suddenly, Stanley comes in and opens up that he knows about the news of Blanche's past. Stanley says that after she loses DuBois' mansion, Blanche has moved to a Fleabag motel from which she was eventually evicted because of her numerous sexual liaison. Liaison meaning having too much of close relationship with people. Also, she was fired from her teaching job as the principal discovered that Blanche was having an affair with a teenage student. Both Stella and Blanche is horrified to learn that Stanley has told all these matters to Minch. Her birthday moves without any celebration and Minch never arrived for the dinner party. Stanley also indicates to Blanche that he is very much aware of her past life. Stanley presents a one-way bus ticket to Laurel as a birthday present to Blanche. Stanley's cruelty disturbs Stella and she very much identifies that the household of Kowalski will break up so soon. But due to Stella's pregnancy, it all prevents the imminent fight. Several hours later, the birthday, Blanche is fully drunk and sits alone in the apartment. Minch arrives to the apartment, who's also drunk. He repeats what all he heard from Stanley to Blanche. Eventually, Blanche also confesses her stories to be true. She reveals that she was in need of human affection after the death of her husband. Minch tells Blanche that he cannot marry her and they cannot live in the same house as his mother. Having learned about Blanche's past, his mother identifies that Blanche is not the chaste lady who she had pretended to be. Mitch tries to seduce Blanche, but she forces him to leave the apartment. She yells as fire in order to get the attention of the passerby. Between this time, Stanley has taken Stella to admit her in the hospital for childbirth. When Stanley returns from the hospital, he finds Blanche is fully drunk. She tells him that she will be leaving to New Orleans with her former suitor named Sheep Huntledge, who is now a millionaire. Stanley admits Blanche that it is a perfect day which he was being urging for. He then uses his physical strength to overcome Blanche and rapes her. The next scene happens weeks later, where Stella and her neighbor Eunice they pack the bag of Blanche. Meantime, Stanley plays his poker game with his buddies in the front room. While Blanche takes her bath, a doctor arrives to take Blanche to an insane asylum. Asylum is a protection place organized by the government in order to protect people who left from their country or home. But Blanche believes that she is going to join her boyfriend, the millionaire. Her own sister Stella fails to trust her and confesses to Eunice that she could not believe Blanche's assertion of Stanley raping her. After the bath, Blanche comes out. She locks her grip on reality. The doctor and the nurse arrive to take Blanche. Blanche was initially panicked and denies to go with them. Blanche yells and shouts. Meantime, Stanley's friends hold Blanche while Eunice holds Stella to keep her from interfering. Observing this, Minch starts to cry. The doctors also tell Blanche that she can leave with Minch to carry out her life, but Blanche doesn't want to go along with him. She bids a final goodbye without turning back. Meantime, Stella sobs with her child in her arms. Stanley convinces and comforts Stella with loving words. Let us see the themes and symbolism used in this play. First is sexual desire. In this play, female is objectified and the play runs with male sexual desire. Also, Blanche's interaction with men always begin with flirtation. Throughout the play, sexual desire is linked to destruction. Both sexual desire and domestic violence coincides because in case of Stanley who hits Stella and in case of Steve who beats Eunice, the male character abuses women, but for the sake of sexual desire, they keep their wives with them in order. Interior and exterior appearance. In the play, Williams focuses to symbolize and demonstrate the complicated relationship that goes inside the mind and that happens in real life. That is the reason Williams tries to portray the interior and the outer part of the apartment. The life of Blanche's fantasy and her real life is portrayed in this novel. Blanche's social and class distinctions are also point to the tension happening between the interior and exterior. Next is femininity and dependence. The character of Blanche and Stella demonstrates the two types of femininity in the play. In case of Blanche, she is dependent on men, regardless of their age or status. In case of Stella, she is dependent on her husband for everything. She is a delicate and an innocent woman who has to live a dependent life on the shadow of her husband, even though he is physically abusive. In case of Blanche, men have taken advantage in her life in the case of her marriage and in the case of her relationship with men. In case of her first marriage, it is disastrous, and when she finds Mitch as her refuge, he shatters her life. Her own sister did not believe her because she seeks a practical reliance on men, especially her husband. That is why she did not believe her sister of Stanley raping her. Hope this video helps. If you have query, please write it down on the comment section. Thank you for listening.